So I realized when I was building this up that I haven't had a weekend or a summer off work for about 30 years. More than 30 years. In fact, I was 12 or 13 years old when my mom sent me out to the strawberry fields. It was great for her, right? It was like daycare that paid me. So since then, I've had a ton of pretty unique jobs, everything from a wedding DJ to a professional lawnmower. But I've had 3 jobs that really have made every job since easy. I spent just a couple more years in the strawberry fields, and by the time I was 15, I became a commercial fisherman. And I got on a 32-foot gill netter named the Tammy and headed to Alaska with a guy named Brian Seaman. Right? I spent another 6 summers in Alaska, sometimes on small boats, sometimes on big boats, and I had a ton of adventure. I had my first beer from a bar. I got chased by a bear. I hired people, I fired people. I had a guy threaten my life and mean it. It was crazy. And I realized pretty quickly that there's no out on a fishing boat. If you don't do your job, somebody gets hurt. And I found out also that when things got really hard or really scary, that I could find a calm place within myself and just get through it. I also found out that I could work for days on just a little bit of sleep. And the last thing I found out was that there's something really, really freeing in having a physically challenging job. And so I know I will never work so hard physically as I did when I was a fisherman in Alaska. So I graduated college, I started looking for a real job, and somewhere along the way I saw an ad in a paper that said, corrections officer at outdoor wilderness school. So I was hired, I tell you, I was hired within the first 5 minutes of that interview. And the guy took the next 30 minutes to try to talk me out of it. So it wasn't long before I found myself an hour and a half southeast of Tucson, Arizona, in a large teepee with a bunch of teenage boys who had all been sent there by their judges to spend a year in the desert. And it was day 3 of an orientation period that in no way could have ever prepared me for the next year of my life, when they stood me on a circle and they asked me what commitment meant to me. And my answer? Not giving myself another option. Just after that, they asked me to commit to being there for a year. Of the 15 people that stood on the circle that day and gave their commitment, I was one of 3 that made it the whole year. It was hard. Some people left in the middle of the day, they just couldn't deal with it anymore. Some people left in the middle of the night because they didn't want to face it. And those kids, they challenged everything. They challenged me, they kicked me, they hit me. I was on the ground and got kicked by a group of them, and I had to get up and I had to restrain them. I had to yell at them. I had to push them as hard as they've ever been pushed in their lives. I had to do things I never thought I'd do. And I thought about leaving a lot. And every time I kind of worked up the anger or the righteousness or the self-pity needed to break my commitment, a kid walked up to me and he looked at me and he asked me for help. And I mentally unpacked my bags and got to work helping because, like I said, it's about that commitment. So I know I'll never have my commitment challenged like it was there. Quickly, after that, my next job ended me up in a psychiatric hospital. Not that way, but I worked as an on-call with kids, adolescents, and adults. And I gotta tell you, working with the adults was a lot harder than the kids. In the first full week that I was there, I curled up on my bed and I cried because I had never seen so much anger, so much frustration, so much confusion, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I had a girl tell me that after she killed herself, she was gonna come back to haunt me. I don't even know how to answer that. I'll tell you how I answered that. I said, okay, Sheila, well, I guess if that's the only way I get to see it, I'll take it. Because you have to have a kind of gallows humor in those ways to even make it through. And so I know I'll never be challenged emotionally the way I was in the psychiatric hospital. So it's those 3 jobs that have made it possible for me to do the job I have now in a way that nobody else can. I'll never work so hard as when I was in Alaska. I will never have my commitment challenged so much as when I was there with those kids. And I'll never have my emotions challenged so much as in the psychiatric hospital. But now I get to hire and interview people, and I look for people who have done something interesting in their lives, something hard, because I know that even if the job I've got for them isn't unique, that if I find someone who's done some cool stuff, they'll do a unique job, and that's important. And when things get hard, because my job is hard, it's not easy, I can look around and realize I'm not standing knee-deep in fish guts, and I'm likely not gonna have to break up a fight with those guys. And so I can mellow out, I can take a deep breath, and realize I got this, because with my experience, this is easy. Thanks.